What if 80% of your success was hiding in just 20% of your efforts? This week on Profit with a Plan, I am talking with Perry Marshall, the man who wrote the book, literally, on turning that principle into unstoppable growth. He's sharing the exact strategies that have transformed businesses across hundreds of industries. Here's what you'll get today: how to pinpoint the vital few tasks that are driving the most results, how to simply find simple ways to shift your focus to high impact activities that actually move the needle, and a method to continually refine your approach for exponential success. So, if you're tired of spinning your wheels and want to start seeing massive ROI, this episode is a game changer. So, tune in to Profit with a Plan and learn how to work smarter, not harder. Hey, entrepreneurs, if you're ready to boost your profits and grow your business, well, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we share strategies to help you scale your company, increase profitability, and set up for a future exit. I'm your host, Marcia Riner, business growth strategist and the profit booster behind Infinite Profit. I've helped countless entrepreneurs to build highly profitable and sale ready businesses. That's more profits now and a bigger payout later. And today's episode is sponsored by Infinite Profit, where we don't just talk profit, we deliver it. If you're ready to move your business to the next level, visit infiniteprofitconsulting.com. But before we dive in, I've got something special for you. If you ever felt like you're doing everything right, but it just seems not to get the traction you deserve, well, here's a tip for you: try customer reviews. They can be your secret weapon to attracting new clients and boosting trust. That's why I'm excited to share our free growth and marketing audit at profitbooster.biz. In just one session, you'll learn how to turn those reviews into real growth. And if you're ready to stand out, go visit profitbooster.biz and get started. All right, let's jump into today's episode. My guest today is Perry Marshall, a trailblazing business strategist and best-selling author who revolutionized how to businesses grow. Known for his ultimate guide to Google Ads and 80/20 sales and marketing, Perry has transformed the ways companies think about success, consulting across 300 plus industries and influencing over 400 billion in digital ad market. He is also the visionary behind the 10 Million Evolution 2.0 prize and a leader in merging science and business innovation. Perry's expertise in uncovering high impact strategies makes him an essential voice for anyone looking to achieve exponential growth. Wow, Perry, I'm super excited to have you on, and I've been a follower of the 80/20 rule for so long.
Well, it's good to be here. I want to tell you a story, a true story from a good friend of mine that I talk about in the book. His name is John, and when he was 17, he dropped out of Catholic high school, hitchhiked to Las Vegas, and became a professional gambler, complete with fake ID and all of it. And after about 3 weeks of that, he said, "Boy, this professional gambling stuff is harder than I thought it would be." And he went to a gambling bookstore and he was looking around and he got into a conversation with a guy who he found out was another professional gambler. And John says, "Do you think you can teach me what you guys do?" And he said, "For a percentage of your winnings, we can teach you what we do." And so they shook hands and had an agreement. "Jump in the Jeep, John. We're going for a ride." They jump in the car. They're going down the highway. John says, "So, how do I win more poker games?" And the guy says, "You have to find marks. Those are people who are going to lose. You don't want to play other professional gamblers. You want the kid from Wichita who's 18 that just got his grandmother's inheritance money." And John says, "So, where do I find that guy?" And he pulls into a parking lot of a strip club and he takes John in there. And there's music and women and distractions. And he sits down at the table and he pulls a sawed off shotgun out of his jacket, opens it up, in the middle of this loud club. He slams it shut. So it goes, and there's a couple biker dudes over in the corner, and they're like, whoa, who made that noise? And the owner comes over and says, hey, what's going on over here? It's okay. Just keep leaving the lad a lesson. John, did you see those biker dudes who turned around when they heard that noise? Yeah. Don't play poker with them. They're not marks. Play poker with everybody else. And that is what we call racking the shotgun. And everything you do in marketing and advertising and sales is racking the shotgun. And it separates the few from the many. Some
Wow.
people opened the email, some people didn't. Some people clicked on the link, some people didn't. Some people got on the Zoom call, some people didn't. Some people bought, some people didn't. Some people did the upsell, some people didn't. And what all of us are tempted to do is focus on the 80% that didn't do anything. And it's really about the 20% who do something, because the ones that do, they're not 4 times more effective, they're 16 times more.
Wow.
80/20 is about 16 to 1. It's not about a little bit of difference. If you hire 10 salespeople, it's basically a law of the universe that 2 of them will outsell the other 8. Like the 2 all by themselves will outsell the other 8. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not because there was anything wrong with your hiring process. This is just the way the world is. And most people are fighting 80/20, and they're trying to make everything equal, and they're trying to fix the 8 salespeople, or they're trying to get the customer that didn't turn their head and they didn't respond and they didn't pay it. Well, what's the matter? Like, what, how do we get, you can't, they're not going to. And so what this means really, marketing is not a convincing people process. It's a
Mm,
disqualification process.
yes. I love that story. You had me leaning in the whole time. Perfect marketer for the education on it. And what a truth to it, because, okay, I cried through my 2 statistic classes that I had to take, right? Because it was like, it wasn't until the end of the second one that I went, oh, I get it. Everything falls between the bell curve. And where you want to be is you want to invest in the peak of the bell curve, not the outer outliers, right? And so, not to scare everybody away, but that's your reasoning. It's like, really, there's only so many people that are ready to buy right now. And if we spend so much time focusing on those that aren't even aware that they have a problem yet, we're wasting our time and money.
Well, so here's the punchline. And this is the part that set my brain on fire and made me realize that I never really understood 80/20 in the first place, even though I had thought that I did.
Okay.
The punchline is there's a top 20% of the top 20%, and they still produce 80% of the 80%. So if you hire 100 salespeople, 20 of them will sell 4 times more than the other 80 put together. So person for person, they're 16 times more. But if I just take the top 20, the top 20% of the top 20% will sell 80% of the 80%. So that means sales is driven by a handful of, yeah, 4.
I was like trying to do my math in my head. 4, right?
If you have 100 salespeople, 4 of them will produce 2/3 of the sales.
Wow.
And this is true of customers too. 4% of your customers produce 2/3 of your sales. 1% of your customers produce half of your sales. And this should be true. And if it's not true, you're doing something wrong. And so this caused me to create a notion called the principle of the $2,700 espresso machine. It says that if you have 1,000 people a week buying lattes at Starbucks for $5, that's $5,000, right?
Hmm.
One of those 1,000 people will spend $2,700 on an espresso machine, or they'll spend $2,700 on something that has to do with coffee. They might go on a $6,000 Mediterranean barista cruise.
I'm in for that.
And And if you're just selling lattes, you probably don't even understand that you shouldn't be in the business you think you're in, and that Starbucks understands they're in a different business than what you think that you're in, because money is burning a hole in those people's pockets and they want to spend the money. So when I do live seminars, I do this funny exercise and it cracks everybody up. I'll say, everybody in the room, stand up if you own shoes. So, okay, everybody stands up. And then I start, I, I say, sit down if you have less than 4. Sit down if you have less than 8. And then I'll just keep doubling the number. And I'll go 16, 32, 64, 128. Well, most people have never seen this happen. They're like, 128 shoes? Yes. And there's always like, I get to 128 and there's always like 5 or 6 people standing up. And the most shoes I ever had in a room, there was about 300 people in the room. One lady had 800 pairs of shoes.
Good golly.
And this is not weird. This is normal
For her.
for any crowd. If you have 300 people in a room, I guarantee you one of them has at least 300 or 400 pairs of shoes.
That's insane.
If I'm in a conference with entrepreneurs, domain names, there will always be somebody in the room who owns more than 1,000 domain names. The first time I ever did this exercise, one guy owned 10,000 domain names just sitting here, right there in the room.
Holy cow.
Everything is like this.
Okay.
Books, 20% of the readers own 80% of the books. 1% of the readers own 50% of the books. This is so true everywhere. When you see it, you will never unsee it again.
That's insane. So, how do we take that into our business and find that one customer or those 4 customers that are fanatics about our product?
So let's start with anybody, listen, any business that's got any traction.
Right.
You have 10 customers, you have 100 customers, you have 35, whatever the number is. If you have 10 customers, one of them wants to spend 5 times more money than all the rest of them spent.
Okay.
Guarantee you it's true.
Okay.
And not only that, they are spending that money somewhere.
Whether with you or not.
I promise, like, you own a coffee shop, you don't even know that one of those people that drove through and ordered a latte, one of them went on a Mediterranean barista cruise and spent $6,000. You have no idea that the $5 they gave you is just the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg, because they are what I call a hyper responsive customer, and
Okay.
they can't get enough. I mean, these are the people that go to the concert and they buy the backstage passes and they line up for hours when the tickets are going on sale, and then they line up again at the door so they can get in and get the best seating. Like, this is how the world is. This is how people are. And logical people don't like it. It's like, that's weird. That doesn't make sense.
No, I'm thinking
Money,
I want more of those. How do I
yes,
find them?
money is made on weirdness. You flow with it and you go, what else Does the hyper responsive customer want or need? What is the unscratchable itch
Yeah.
that they have that I can scratch? And life becomes so much easier. And guess what? You don't have to treat everybody equally. You don't have to give them all equal time. You don't give the same amount of time to your $5 latte customer as you give to your Barista Cruise Mediterranean customer, because the hyper responsives deserve more attention and they want more attention.
And they're willing to
They'll,
pay for
they'll
it.
pay for it. And it
Wow.
keeps going and going and going until you literally run out of people. And so, those of you who are listening who have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of customers, it's almost a dead certainty that you're leaving significant amounts of money on the table.
Wow. Now, I've heard of this VIP experience before, right? The customer that's willing to pay for it, that does everything that you just described, that just wants that kind of experience on it. So are you suggesting that we create offers that match the $5 latte and in between and the $6,000 barista Mediterranean cruise, we should have offers that serve everybody? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, most people are already selling a latte. That made
On
sense.
every corner and then some and
Right.
7-Elevens and AMPMs and yes.
And well, so if 30 people spent $5, one of them will spend $100. And
Yeah.
if 300 people spent $5, one of them will spend like $800. Like and so if you start stacking it up, you'll find most people are leaving anywhere from 1/3 to 2/3 of the money on the table, and they're not
Oh,
even
for sure.
picking it up at all.
For
And
sure.
they're sitting there and they're quite like, think of the guy at the coffee shop. He's doing the pour over and he's like doing the origami maneuvers and the pageantry and the drama, and he's doing it all, but he's secretly resenting, like, I can't even pay my rent. Like, why am I like doing all this stuff for these people? And he's kind of resenting it because
Mm.
why is it so hard to make a living? Well, a lot of times it's because the smarter business people in the market, they've figured out the 80/20 principle. They figured out how to get half the money from 1% of the customers. And a lot of times that's almost invisible to everybody else. And you don't realize the coffee shop across the street is in a different business than you, and you don't know it.
Mm.
They're in
Hmm.
the Mediterranean cruise business, and you think you're in the latte business.
Hmm. So, if I'm hearing this right, this is a completely different version of the 80/20 rule that I knew, and it's on steroids, and I love it. But I'm guessing to myself, okay, having an ultra or a high ticket offer, right, that serves your raving fans is important to have.
Yeah.
But it's not the only thing you need to have because you still need to sell those $5 lattes to get the people in the door that would even consider the high ticket or the ultra high ticket offer that you have, correct?
Yes, but then 80/20 works on the opposite end too, because 80/20 says that 20% of your customers lose you money. You don't even make money on
Uh,
those people.
exactly.
And that you would make more money if you didn't sell anything to them
Lattes.
at all. And if you just sat in the office instead of making them a latte. And this is this is almost always, almost any business. I could walk into any business, 10% of their customers are losing more money than they're making, and they should fire the customer. They will immediately be more profitable. Their revenue won't go up, but their profit will go way up because they're taping dollar bills to every product. So most businesses, 10% of the products they sell lose money and they don't know it. 10% of
Mm,
their clients lose them money. 10% of their employees lose them money because they would
hmm.
really do better if they got rid of the bad employee instead of keeping them around. And so 80/20 is really about making more while doing less because you're doing less, because you know it's a law of physics that a few of those customers are going to spend way more money. It's also law of physics that a few of those customers are going to chew up resources. Maybe it's product defects, it's complaints, they're bitchy, they don't get
Extra time, negative reviews,
yes,
whatever they wanna give
yes,
you or dish out that causes negative results
yes.
versus the positive results and the few that you can get raving fans from if you just focused on them.
Yes, and advertising is notoriously this way.
Mm.
Most people waste huge amounts of advertising. I wrote the books on Google, Facebook, and TikTok advertising. People waste huge amounts of money on advertising, click fraud, and or they don't have negative keywords. And so people are typing in like free latte and they're clicking on your ad and you pay money when they click on an ad. They just typed in free latte. They're not going to pay for a
They're
lot.
not gonna spend money.
And this happens all the time. And so 80/20 it's in every Facebook account, it's in every Google account, it's in every spreadsheet, it's in every QuickBooks. And like let's take this to the level of school. In school, allegedly, you're supposed to be a straight A student. That's like being good at everything. Hardly anybody is successful in any career because they're good at everything. They're successful in their career because they're good at something. It doesn't really matter if they passed their anthropology class or it may
They knew
not
how to study correctly and could
if they're
recite short-term memory for the exam, right?
right, right. And so this applies to everything and
Mm.
is everywhere. And when I first saw it, my brain just set on fire. I I was reading and it's like, wait a minute, there's an 80/20 inside every 80/20. And I spontaneously combusted. I was
I
in a
was just gonna say, you've already broken my brain right now, so I'm right there with you.
and it changed the way I did everything. The next Monday, I sent an email to my biggest client and I said, we're doing an 80/20 analysis on everything. And we found all kinds of stuff. So I'll give you an example of where they were wasting a bunch of money. This client was renting 16 mailing lists from an industry that they were in, and they were mailing 1 million catalogs to the million names that came from these mailing lists. And I said, I know it's a law of the universe that 20% of these mailing lists produce 80% of the money, and 80% of those mailing lists produce
Just cost
only
you
the
money
other
to send out your catalog.
20%. And so what we did we did an experiment that I don't have time to go into, and we figured out the 3 best lists of the 16. And instead of mailing out 1 million catalogs a year to 1 million people, we mailed 500,000 catalogs a year to 250,000 people. So
Okay,
we mailed them
twice,
to better people and we mailed them twice.
twice. I was like, okay, high math, twice.
And so they cut their mailing budget in half and their sales went up.
I can
And
imagine because you found the people that were already buying that wanted to buy instead of the people that just got the catalog and went, that's nice, trash or doorstop, right?
so, so if you know from listening to this podcast, you Perry Marshall absolutely guarantee you that if you have 16 mailing lists, 3 of them are better than the other 13 put together, and you just have to figure out which 3 they are. You just paid for the time you listening to this podcast by about times 1,000 hours of pain and suffering and misery that you just saved yourself. So you go find the real customers that you want to serve, and then you serve those customers and you sell them an espresso machine instead of making 1,000 lattes.
I love it. I love it. And all the ancillary expenses of making all the lattes instead of selling the one machine to the ideal person that wants to buy it.
Yes.
Wow.
Because you're
Mind
already
blown.
making lattes and you're it's good enough. So just keep the people coming. If they want to buy a latte, sell them a latte. But there's a whole other game that you can be playing, and that's the real game.
I love it. It's not just niche marketing, but it's niche down to the desire of the buyer
Yes.
that is ready, willing, and able to spend significant amount of money with your company. And we're missing the boat because we're focusing on the everybody because we're afraid to turn away everybody for the loss of maybe a potential rather than just diving in and looking at the numbers. Now, I know there's a 12-hour class on how to do the data search and the scrub and to find all this other kind of stuff, but it can be done.
It can be done. And there's people that love to do that.
Yeah.
That's
Number
not
crunchers, right?
it's not very hard. There's
No.
they're on Fiverr, they're on Upwork, they're all over the place. They're one of them probably works for you. Do you know how to analyze a spreadsheet? Yes, I know that.
Yes. But I
Okay.
think what you have to have is like you started off in the beginning is you've got to have a set of customers,
Yes.
right? That are already willing to buy. And then you narrow down that customer. And then once you find that customer, how do you duplicate him? So if we're going to duplicate John, I think was your initial conversation where we were teaching him how to gamble, right? How
Yeah.
do we duplicate a John so that we can go out and have more Johns on our list or sell more to John originally, right?
Well, Johns attract other Johns. So here's a really practical example. Um, a lot of people know that you can take a customer list and upload it to Facebook or upload it to Google and say, well, I
Sure.
want to find more people.
Like people.
Okay, so don't upload the whole customer list. Upload the top 20% customers. There's only 20% of those, but they spend 80% of the money. Give Facebook that list and say, I want more people like this. I want
Yeah.
more people that buy $2,700 espresso machines, not more people that buy $5 lattes. Now, typically, it's going to be 2 or 3 times more expensive to market to those people on an individual basis. But in the aggregate, you only spend a third as much money because they buy so much more.
And you're
And
only shipping out the catalogs to them twice as often and only to half the people that
yes,
need the catalogs. So you're actually when you think about the numbers itself, the volume of the ad spend, right, are significantly less, but they're more expensive to target that person because everybody else is targeting them as well.
yes, this is the difference between the ordinary ad agencies and the great ad agencies. The average ad agency will say, I will save you 10% on your clicks. I'll save you 20% on your clicks. A really good agency will say, I'm going to find customers that are 2 or 3 times more expensive to acquire and are 10 times more desirable for you.
Yes,
And
please.
nobody else is doing that. So we can find them and get them.
In my 6 years of doing this show, I've had tons of marketing experts on, and they all have the same story. And the question that I always ask, because coming from the business owner side, this is always very bothersome to me that we have to gather data for 6 months before I start to see the customer that I'm paying the marketing for, right?
Mhm.
But I think you just gave me the shortcut because if you can stream the data down and not looking for the discounts or the mass, but you're looking for that individual, that has that high spending probability. Now
Yes.
you've just shortcut and all of the time for data research because you looked at your own books and you asked them to duplicate these high shoppers.
Yes. In fact, John, the guy that I told you the story about, one of the things that he taught me was never develop a product until somebody writes you a check
Mm,
first. And that has, so I've ignored that advice a couple times and it's
I think
cost
we all
me,
have.
dearly. And then I've followed the advice a few times and then not dive into an empty swimming pool. You can go to somebody and you can say, I will develop this software for you and I'll give you 60% off, but you have to write me a check today and it'll be ready in a year. And if you can't get anybody to write you that check, you should not develop the software.
Well said. Well said. I know that there's so many people that talk about that, deliver the if you're teaching a course, only create, the concept, and when people buy it, then deliver lesson 1 and get your feedback, and then from that feedback deliver lesson 2 that you just created off of what you learned, right? So it's
Yes.
that learning from the buyers that want to buy. But so many people like, I've got this great widget here and I've made it and designed it and it's special and now I'm going to sell it. No,
Yeah. We
you got to
all
find the buyer first.
we all get wrapped up in the amazingness of our own creations,
Of
and
course.
yeah, it's a trap.
It is a horrible trap that I'm sure we've all experienced throughout the years. But what a brilliant idea to take what we're already doing. Now, I'm not telling anybody scrap your business, but let's be smart about your business and think about how you can, as we said in the beginning, work smarter, not harder, and reap in the profits from the cream of the crop that we all want in the first place, that's willing, able, and ready to buy your product. Boom. I'm like, you broke my brain. This is fantastic. Completely different from the 80/20 rule that, or exponentially different from the 80/20 rule we all know, and it's brilliant. Now, the only question is to the audience, will you take this advice and run with it? Or will you be the 80% of the 80% of the 80% that don't
Yep,
because you think you're doing it right?
that's
Whew.
right.
Great, great, great conversation. Perry, I need to know more. Where do listeners find out more about you and
If
your
you go to
80/20 methodology?
if you go to perrymarshall.com/podcast, you can get my book 80/20 Sales and Marketing for $7, including shipping.
Nice.
So it's about $20 on Amazon, but in the US you can get it for 7, including shipping, and the book will melt your brain.
It's already going.
After you read this book, you will never not see 80/20. You'll be able to walk into any business, your business, anybody else's business, and go, wait, here are the levers. These are where the high profit parts are. This is the low profit stuff that we need to cut out. This is where I need to spend my advertising money. This is where I need to spend my salespeople's time. And it will completely reverse your notion that sales is about chasing people. It'll make you realize, no, sales is about only certain people are ever going to buy, and only certain people are ever worth your time. So let me give you a quick example of how I use this, and it illustrates the posture. When we wrote our Facebook advertising book, at that time, Facebook advertising was really new and it really only worked for certain kinds of businesses.
Mhm.
So we didn't want a whole bunch of people to buy this book and give us 1-star reviews and say, this sucks. It
This
doesn't
doesn't
work.
work.
So we put a quiz on page 2 of the book. We said, go online, take a quiz, and do not ever advertise on Facebook unless you get at least a 6 out of 10 on our quiz. Like, take the book back and get a refund if you didn't get a 6. And when a person read that, they're like, oh, this person is not BSing me. And they would go take the quiz and they would get an 8.5. And then it was very believable that the person who got the 8.5 should really take us seriously. Imagine doing that with everything you sell, some version of it, whether it's just a couple of quick questions on the phone or literally a quiz that you make. And you say, I'm not even going to attempt to sell this to you unless I can genuinely help you. I want you to think about, how does that change your posture as a salesperson? How does that change your relationship to the person? Because they don't feel like you're ramming something down their throat.
Wow.
Immensely increases your credibility. It's all from 80/20 saying, I know in advance that 80% of people are not a match. I'm not going to waste their time or my time. I'm looking for just the right people.
And those right people become raving fans and bring in other people just like them.
Yes.
And your success results that you promise to your customers, whether it's thicker hair or nicer skin or the best pizza in the world,
Yeah.
they're going to appreciate that more because they fit your perfect customer model. Of
Yes. Nobody's for everybody.
course not. Tell that to every
And
business owner
it's
out
okay.
there. Repeat that to every business owner out there. You can't
Nobody
serve
is for
everybody.
everybody.
Oh my gosh, Perry, I love it. Thank you so much. Hey, listeners, thanks for tuning in today. Gosh, I hope you got the valuable insights and actionable ideas that I just took in. My mind is melted because he's just turned that 80/20 on its head and made it now one of those, strange alien symbols you're going to see everywhere in your life, right? And how it's going to really evolve your business for the upcoming year and how we're going to turn it on its head and make you just totally profitable. Wow. Amazing. Okay, so enough of that. As I mentioned earlier, if you feel like you're doing everything right, but you're not getting the traction, check out my reviews and my training on that. And while you're at it, go grab a free marketing and growth audit at profitbooster.biz. And please subscribe to future shows. We've just hitting 6 years of Profit with a Plan. So I'm so excited that I've brought amazing guests like Perry on the show. And I want you to make sure that you see the next guests that are coming up. You can always find Profit with a Plan on all your favorite podcast platforms. And we're looking forward to more great profitable strategies on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thank you, Perry, so much. This was incredible.
Thank you, Marcia.